Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to AJ Elicits live stream. I don't know how to start these things. I never do. It's like I don't know what I'm going to talk about initially, but yeah, just once again a bunch of different stories that I came across today, and they're Karen Wang. I don't know, her last name makes me laugh. I think that's because I'm a little bit childish, but Karen Wang is a Wacist. And she singled out Jagmeet Singh's origin. She called him. She's like, "Vote for me. I am Chinese. Jagmeet Singh is an Indian of Indian descent." But she's just recently stepped down, and obviously somebody in the Liberal Party nudged her, like, give your resignation. Don't make us condemn you in public and stuff. Because I didn't see a lot of liberals really condemning her. There was a few people just being like, "Oh, tell her to step down because she made some ugly comments," but very few people were even willing to say that she was racist. But hey, Mama Bear, hey, Jesus, hey, Paul, how's it going? And Mike. But yeah, Karen Wang, she came out and she did a non-apology, being like, "Oh, they didn't understand what I was trying to say." But the funny thing, I think, is that if this was to a white person, if she was like, "Oh, this is a male privilege, male white privilege," it would be totally fine. If she was like, "Oh, vote for me, I'm the only Chinese candidate here, don't vote for this white male supremacist," they'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. That's not a big deal." But I'll go through a little bit of the story. And you notice a lot of the headlines, global news, they don't say, "Liberal candidate makes racist comment." They're always just like, "Liberal candidate Wang steps aside after pointing to Jagmeet Singh's Indian origin on WeChat." So, there's a bunch of other headlines like this that were very similar that are just like, "Oh, she's not racist," or it's like, "Oh, she made a ugly comment." Hey, Linda, how's it going? Hey, Luke. So as an early fire has been discovered. But yeah, fucking, what was her comment? This is her comment, though. "If we increase the voting rate as the only Chinese candidate in this riding, if I can garner 16,000 votes, I will easily win the by-election, control the election race, and make history. My opponent in this by-election is the NDP candidate Singh of Indian descent." So she, focused on his Indian descent. And there's conflict between China and India for trade and stuff on a world scale. So adjust this a little bit. So they're always battling back and forth with each other. And she pointed to that. And if you look at Burnaby South, the demographics, it's like 50% Chinese, 30% white, 16% South Asian, yada, 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 but a lot of Chinese people there. And you're just going to see more and more of this in the future. Hey, Richard, how's it going? But you're going to keep seeing more and more identity politics being played by these groups in more diverse cities. They're just going to be more careful about it, right? And they're not going to come out and say directly what she said, but they're just going to do more dog whistling. And it's funny, I was just on Reddit and I was looking at some comments, and there was this comment by Aristotle. It was talking about diversity, and let's see if I can find it again. But this is like from Aristotle. It's like, for Aristotle, democracy is only possible within a homogenous ethnic groups, while despots have always reigned over highly fragmented societies. A multi-ethnic society is thus necessarily anti-democratic and chaotic, for it lacks philia, this profound flesh and blood fraternity of citizens. Tyrants and despots divide and rule. They want the city divided by ethnic rivalries. The indispensable condition for ensuring a people's sovereignty accordingly resides in its unity. Ethnic chaos prevents all philia from developing. So, it's like these people, they knew about democracy. They knew about a non-homogeneous society and what that will do. within a democracy. Obviously, these people, just like this Karen Wang girl, just like, vote for me, I'm Chinese, he's Indian, you know, you're like me, I'm like you. And people are saying like, oh, they're not going to vote based on race. But if there was an Asian guy saying the same thing as, like, I don't know, a white guy, and they're proposing the exact same thing, you know, I would assume that these people are going to pick the Asian guy over the white guy or the Indian guy. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I would assume. And it's funny how Burnaby South, the only candidates that have a shot is either a Liberal or NDP. It's like the Conservatives, they're not even being mentioned whatsoever, and that guy's Chinese. So they're like, they're not even worth mentioning because they have no shot. So it's like these people, they're only going to vote for a liberal or somebody who's like a socialist / fucking communist. And conservatives have literally no shot in ridings like this. But this is good for the liberals as well. Jagmeet Singh keeping his spot because they think that he's going to bleed a lot of support from the NDP into the liberals. But I'm not too sure about that. I think that a lot of people are actually going to go towards the the Green Party instead, because I've noticed a lot of support increasing for the Green Party, and that's probably where a lot of these NDP people are going, because they don't like what Trudeau is doing with the pipelines. Even though he's fucking them all up like crazy, he still bought it, and he still his police apprehended those people at the pipeline, and they're all really mad about that. So they may just start not voting Liberal either, and NDP, and just voting for the Green Party, which would be good for us, would be good for everybody, right? Because it's like, you know, they don't really have a chance, but it'd be good to bleed some of their support. But you know, she stepped down, and what's more of her comments here? This is, let's see here. She's like, in a statement Wednesday, Wang announced her decision to step aside and said she apologized to Singh for the message, but this is her non-apology. I've been proud to call Burnaby South my home since I arrived in Canada as a newcomer 20 years ago. And first of all, like I said before, it's like somebody who's been here for like 20 years, should they even be allowed to run in office and vote? I don't think so. I don't think people that have only been here for that long should have that right. It's like, you know, she gets here, she's 20 years in, and then she's already running for a position in office, and she's pandering to her fucking group, right? And it's ridiculous. The diverse character of this community is real source of strength, and diversity enriches all of us as Canadians, she wrote in a statement. In trying to speak about my own story and importance of people of all different backgrounds getting involved in this important by-election. So she's like trying to spin it, being like, oh, I was just trying to talk about the importance of all people from different backgrounds participating. I made comments online that also referenced Jagmeet Singh's cultural background. My choice of words wasn't well considered and didn't reflect my intent, and for that I sincerely apologize to Mr. Singh. I have deep respect for him and the leader of his party and for his public service. I would never want to diminish him in any way. She then said she was stepping down out of concern for her comments would become a distraction to the upcoming federal election. After consideration with my supporters, I have decided to step aside as a Liberal candidate in Burnaby South by-election, she wrote. You know, she's like, I believe in the progress that Justin Trudeau and Liberals team are making for British Columbians and all Canadians, and I do not wish for any of my comments to be a distraction in that work. So it's like, okay, you know, she's stepping down, and their Liberals are like, oh, her comments don't line up with what we believe, and she's going to step down, yada, yada, yada. But obviously, she just exposed herself. They have no problem with her doing stuff like this. They just have a problem with her getting caught. And it's like, you know, this is not going to stop, though. This is just what you get with more and more fucking diversity in our country. We're just going to get more and more of this. And a lot of the Chinese people a lot of these candidates, she's probably one of the candidates that CSIS is like investigating as like possibly a somebody who's working with foreign governments, because I think there's like 5 MPs that may have relations to like other countries, because we have like 50 people that have dual citizenship in our government as MPs or senators, and you're like, that should not be allowed, but yet it is allowed. And you know, we're stupid. We do allow it. We're like, oh no, well clearly these people are gonna value Canadians above their own people first. It's like, no, they're not. They're obviously not. And this girl's like, oh, vote for me. I'm Chinese. You're Chinese. But this is going to get brushed under the table. You know, if this was a conservative who said this, it would be like, oh, racist conservative said vote for me because I'm white over this other. It would be international news or something. People would be losing their fucking shit. But and the only reason they called him out this time is because Jagmeet Singh is brown. And they're like, oh, you called out another minority. Oh, that's kind of prejudiced. I wouldn't say racist because you don't have power. You know, power plus prejudiced. But if it was like a white dude and he's like, oh, this white privilege, they'd be like, oh, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But this just exposes the liberals more to, you know, their racism, to what they really believe. And, you know, more diversity is not our strength. This is another thing we can point to be like, here's another example of how diversity isn't working in Canada. Here's another example. It's like when people were asking, I think, Maxime Bernier to be like, well, where can you point to? It's like this, the Islamic Party of Ontario, that imam who is like, don't wish people a Merry Christmas or whatnot. You know, there are plenty examples of this. And if you point to the violent examples, be like, oh, you're a racist, you're a prejudiced bigot. White people kill people too, you know, white people kill. But, you know, dumb fucking, you know, racist bitch. And she was using WeChat, which is something that I guess a bunch of Chinese people use. And, you know, it's like they use this to talk amongst themselves. And I guess she thought she was safe. Nobody would like catch her doing it. But unfortunately for her, even like it was like the Toronto Star that, you know, talked about this or brought up the story. Merry Christmas to you too, Linda. WeChat is censored by government. It is? Or which government? The Chinese government or our government? Derek, oh yeah. I've heard that before too. WeChat is used to manipulate China. It's used to manipulate China? Or China uses it to manipulate? Oh, ... China. Okay. Yeah, right. So, you know, she's using that app to communicate, and she was just hoping, I guess, yeah, right, to not be seen. But, you know, we have so much Chinese interference in Canada. It's ridiculous. And now they have that one guy who was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and then they retried him in one day and now sentence him to death. And then Trudeau made some like weak statement. You know, they're going to go to bat for this like Saudi Arabian girl and be like, oh no, we'll take her. Oh my God, how could Saudi Arabia do this? Blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to like Canadians, and there's like 13 other Canadians also detained overseas too. And it's like, fuck China to hell. And, you know, they're calling us like a white supremacist fucking nation. It's like, what, like, why are we still doing business with these people? And like that Huawei company, nobody wants to deal with them because that is also pretty much like a back door to China. And, or that's what they fear anyways. And it's funny, like the founder of the Huawei company just recently came out, and you notice how nothing is happening to Americans. No Americans are being apprehended. And even the founder came out and was like, Trump is a great president. You know, he's a great guy. He's a great president, all this stuff. Like that guy doesn't own much of the company anymore, but you just see the difference between the weakness of Trudeau and the strength of Trump. And the whole world knows how weak we are. You just see all these Canadians being like apprehended everywhere, all over the world. There's those 2 people gone in that African country. Now the same country, another guy has been detained by like 16 people with guns, terrorists. And, you know, that's what people do overseas. You know, when they see a country that they think they could take advantage of, they capture their citizens and hold them up for ransom, or they, you know, keep them detained or whatnot. And that's what people are doing to us all over the fucking world. And we're just letting it happen because it's like, oh, it's China and whatnot. And the only people we're willing to call out is people that Trump is kind of working with. So he's kind of working with Saudi Arabia. So it's okay to say everything you want about them and condemn them and all of that because Trump is buddy-buddy with them. But because Trump is attacking China, oh, it's like, you know, if China didn't do all this shit to us recently, we would be like backing them 100%. But because they like literally detained our people and doing all this other shit, we had like Trudeau and liberals had like no choice but to come out and kind of like condemn them somewhat. But even with Saudi Arabia and stuff, that whole girl they brought in, it's just a political play to try to make regular people think that they're standing up to Saudi Arabia, but in reality, they're selling them billions of dollars worth of like military equipment and armored vehicles that, oh, don't worry, they're not going to be used for military purposes. We that's what Trudeau is saying. I remember at some like meeting a while ago. It's like, no, we make sure that these military vehicles are not going to be used to harm civilians or only for peacekeeping missions. Like, oh yeah, that's what the Saudis use this shit for. Are you fucking kidding me? But retards buy this shit. You know, like complete idiots buy this shit. Like, you know, I was on Twitter and I saw this one girl and she was talking about the population, like 100 million, how Trudeau wants to increase it. She's like, well, that's not too bad. Canada has lots of space. And I'm like, you have to be completely retarded to think Canada has tons of space. Like the majority of us live on the border. 3/4 of Canada is like uninhabitable. It's like the tundra. People don't fucking live there. So it's like, what are you talking about? And there's like lots of people, lots of homeless people that are being kicked out of shelters, that are living on the streets because of the massive influx of refugees. But people think like, oh, we have lots of space. It's like, yeah, technically we have lots of space, but you need to build homes to house people. And this is why the housing rate in Vancouver is ridiculous and all over Canada, because we're bringing in too many people and there's not enough houses for people. So of course they can charge people more for homes now as well. And on top of what the Chinese are doing, the triads using the housing market to launder fucking money. So there's that on top of it. But then you got this Karen Wang, you know, playing identity politics in fucking Burnaby South. And you're like, what the hell? Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's like pretty much the world is just like working. Whoever Trump is working with, they're going to work against. Whoever he's working against, they're going to work with, it seems like, you know, like I said, it's only because they're detaining our citizens and stuff that Trudeau has to kind of like come out and say some shit about China. But is the Huawei company still going to be setting up our 5G in Canada, or do we stop that yet? I don't know. Probably they're still looking at it because they're not too sure, but they're probably still going to use them anyways. Like Huawei is still, they own Hockey Night in Canada. They own a lot of other shit. And for what they're doing to our Canadian citizens, we should like boot this company out of our fucking country or something. Like fuck off, leave. You can't come in here. Yeah, that's probably part of it too. The one, the interest rates, but mass immigration does have an impact on housing as well, because it's just supply and demand, and also the fraud and the laundering that's going on. Like there's a lot of houses that are being bought by like Chinese people, and they're not even like paying really any taxes on it. They're not living in it. Nobody's living in it. It's like, but yeah, it's not all the Chinese. There's definitely we have a definite role to play in the housing market as well. But uh, yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely the banks as well. It's multifaceted for the reasons why I think we pay more for housing and all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. The Discord link is broken, by the way. Oh, okay. I'll try to fix that. Gary J, yeah, that may attract more. They're useless. How the global brain drain works. Yeah, right. Brain drain is also an issue that people don't really try to consider. But yeah, that's that liberal Wang girl. And then there was like, yeah, that Canadian kidnapped in Burkina Faso identified as Kirk Woodman. So a Canadian was abducted near a border with Niger on Tuesday. The family of a Halifax man who was kidnapped in northern Burkina Faso on Tuesday said they are hopeful Canadian authorities will bring him home safely. So, yeah, this guy's probably going to be dead. Just don't go to these countries. Like he went there and working on some like mining and stuff. He didn't go for like a stupid reason, like those two other Canadians or that one Canadian girl who's also missing in the same place. Just like December 15th, her and that Italian guy. Don't go to what is this place called? Okay, it's Burkina Faso. So that's in Africa. It's near Niger and Mali and Ghana and Benin and Togo. And there's massive amounts of activity with terrorism there. So if you're Canadian and you want to go there, don't go there, because you're probably going to be a fucking, I don't know, what do you call it? A kidnapped or killed or beheaded, like that Swedish and Norwegian girl, right? But these people are stupid. But this guy, I think he was kind of working there. I think like, a bunch of people came and attacked the compound type thing. So it's not necessarily like the same thing that happened with the other two people. They're like, we're just gonna backpack around Africa and around the Middle East, and everything is gonna go great. We're gonna be fine. Nothing's gonna happen. Everybody does the same everywhere. It's like, no, you're gonna be killed, you fucking idiot. Like most of them have been as of late. And then what's here too? But yeah, Trudeau accuses China of arbitrarily applying death sentence in Canadian case. So that's his big condemnation of China. Stop applying things arbitrarily. You're arbitrarily applying things. It's like, it's so weak. He's such a weak goddamn prime minister. I hate it. He's the weakest PM we've ever had in history. And he's selling us out, and he's doing it in front of our faces. And he doesn't care. He's only talking. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there's something like 13 Canadians detained in China. They're only talking about those two, and they weakly said like, oh, that's bullshit that you're gonna kill somebody for this. And who knows if this guy is even like actually responsible for what China is accusing him of doing. And, how hard is Trudeau really working to help these Canadians out? How hard is his government working to help these people? I don't think very hard. He works a lot harder for people that are in Saudi Arabia for some reason. Not that BB girl that was a Christian who I guess she doesn't have a huge social media account, so she's not really worth saving or anything. But that girl is a Christian, and all she was accused of was drinking from the same like bucket or using the same bucket as like a Muslim or something. So it's like, what the fuck? And this girl, I'm not too sure about her, honestly. Like, hopefully it plays out for the best. Hopefully she is a voice to condemn Islam and, and whatnot. Hopefully, I don't want to say people go out and attack or anything, but, increasingly it seems like, okay, man, it's like some girl, I don't even know if the parents really, maybe she's just like some 18-year-old girl that wants to just fuck off. And, she's like, thinks her parents are oppressive, which probably they somewhat are. But, the parents do deny a lot of what they do. And obviously they would deny it. But I don't know. I just get this feeling that like this girl is kind of, kind of pulling our legs a little bit. Not that she's lying about obviously what's going on in Saudi Arabia and stuff, but it just seems like, and now she's getting like security 24/7. And I'm like, that's kind of fucking bullshit. Like she comes here, she gets made into a refugee immediately, like gets pushed to the front of the line. And it's like, what kind of precedent does that send for the rest of the world? It's like, oh, well, if you're a popular refugee, Canada will take you in no matter what. It's like, what the fuck? What about all these other people? It's like, so they're not as worthy because they don't have a lot of Twitter followers? Is that essentially the message that they are sending? And Trudeau a while ago came out. He's like, oh, Harper is disgusting for looking up this, because he was trying to find some refugees to do a photo shoot with. He's like, oh, that's disgusting that he would do this. But like, that's all you do. That's all you fucking do is do photo shoots with refugees and all these other people. But they're like condemning, I don't know, Harper for fucking doing it. You're like, this is ridiculous. And now Trudeau is on his tour again, where he's speaking to the public, and you got all these people, oh, these unvetted questions from the public. Like, that's all the headlines. Trudeau is taking his tour and his unvetted questions. And all this is, it's just like a huge campaign play for him. Like massive political ads that all these other candidates pretty much don't get. All this coverage that other people are not getting. He's like, oh, I'm doing it because I'm being transparent. And it's like, just run the fucking country. Don't get us in massive deficits. I don't care necessarily about asking you goddamn questions. Just do your fucking job and get your goddamn job done. I don't care if you go and go to a crowd and answer dumb fucking questions. It does like nothing for us. It just has the media come and suck your dick and be like, oh, look how great Trudeau is answering these questions. Oh, he's an amazing guy. And no other prime minister is willing to do this. Oh my God, he's the best. And look how he dealt with this hateful person. There was one guy who's like, would you push Trump off of a cliff? And then Trudeau's like, how could you say that? Don't refer to violence. And the media was like gushing, and they're like, oh my God, did you see how Trudeau handled this guy? But if it was like a right-wing guy saying, oh, could we push Trudeau over a cliff, saying it to like Stephen Harper or a right-wing person, they'd be like, look how the right wing, look at how these people are all violent, and they're expressing violence, and they want to attack people. But when it's a left-wing person saying, oh, we should push this guy off a fucking cliff, they're like, oh, look how well Trudeau handled this guy, and he told him not to say these things. Not that, oh, by proxy, all these people are evil because of these couple people. That's what they're doing with the yellow vest people on their Facebook sites, and they're saying that, oh, because a couple of these comments were hateful and violent, that all these people associated with them, they're all violent bigots, yada yada yada, which is complete bullshit. But they're going to try to portray them like that, to try to get the public to, think that the yellow vests are just a bunch of anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, racist and stuff. And you're like, oh my God, it's so stupid. What's UB? What is UB again? You are in crypto, nothing is free. Gary, I don't think crypto is the future of currency. We run our current country into debt every single year. Yeah, I don't know. We need some type of solution, that's for sure. But I don't know about universal basic income either. I don't really like universal basic income, honestly. Dividends from GDP. But yeah, let's see here. But yeah, there's that guy, he's sentenced to death, and we'll see what happens with that case. Maybe they're just, I don't know, bluffing or something, but that'd be pretty fucked up if this guy was sentenced to death and we did absolutely nothing about it. If we just were like, oh, okay, oh well, let's just keep trading like nothing ever happened. Let's keep trading with China, even though they killed one of our fucking citizens over some bullshit thing. They overturned a case where he was sentenced to 15 years. They overturned it and sentenced him to death. So, if we're still willing to do deals with China after they do that to a Canadian citizen, then there is something desperately wrong with the people who are running our country. Obviously, they don't care about us. Obviously, they care more about trading with China and making sure that the lobbyists that lobby them to create regulations for their businesses keep getting good deals and cheap labor from manufacturers in China and all this other crap. So, that is more important than the average Canadian's life. Doing a grandstanding and getting that girl out of Saudi Arabia is more important than condemning China and saying, what the fuck is your problem, in returning our citizen to Canada. So it's fucking bullshit. Let's see here though. And then what is this here? Persian. Oh yeah, there's also apparently, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there's a person of national security concern was accidentally granted permanent residency. So 2 departments make changes after a completely unacceptable mistake. So a person of national security concern was granted permanent residency due to a series of failures by the Canadian Border Agency and Immigration Department. In the light of the incident, both departments have had to introduce changes in what the Public Safety Minister office is calling a completely unacceptable mistake. So, I'm pretty sure this guy was a border crosser too. The changes were outlined in the briefing note sent by Canada Border Service Agency President John Osauki to Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodell in early 2018 regarding the 2017 error. A heavily redacted copy of the document was recently obtained by CBC News through access to information laws. The briefing note titled Subject of National Security Concern Granted Permanent Residency says the subject, their name, age, and gender are redacted for privacy reasons. So it's like, why? We should know that there's somebody here under a national security concern. What does that mean? It's heavily redacted, so we don't even know. This guy's probably a fucking terrorist, and we're just letting him live here or something. Their name, age, and gender redacted, was granted permanent resident status due to a series of failures on the part of both Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, and the CBSA. So 4 different departments all fucked up. And this only one guy they're talking about, whereas this is probably happening a lot. This is happening a hell of a lot more than what we're probably hearing about how, these people of national fucking concern are being let in through these accidents. That means the person is entitled to most social benefits, including healthcare, can live, work, and study anywhere in Canada, and is protected by Canadian law and the Charter rights and freedoms, but isn't considered a citizen. So pretty much every right that we have, this person has. Most of the details about why this person is considered a security concern and how they were granted permanent residency were redacted because, among other reasons, officials believe releasing information can hurt the conduct of international affairs. So the bullshit reason. Like, how is releasing this going to hurt the conduct of international affairs? Releasing the name of somebody that is a national security risk to Canadians, the defense of Canada or any state allied or associated with Canada. So there was a disconnect between agencies. However, the document does mention that the Canadian Security Intelligence Service had derogatory information, meaning information that could be relevant to a finding that the person was inadmissible to Canada. CSIS and the RCMP were also tapped to monitor national security investigation linked to the case. So one of the agencies had information that could have let other people know that this person was a security risk to Canada, but they didn't let each other know. So they're, this is just the government. They're just bad at their job. And if they're like, oh, don't worry, guys, we're going to protect you, we're going to save you from the evil race, we're going to make sure we're not going to let any of the terrorists in. Whereas, this is from 2017 and it just got released because of a freedom of information request. That's the only reason we are seeing it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have at all be talking about it. And, luckily, it was done on behalf of the CBC as well. So good on them, at least, for doing that. However, the document does mention that Canadian Security Intelligence Service had derogatory information. Kelly Sundberg, an associate professor in the Department of Economic Justice and Policy Studies at Mount Royal University in Calgary, said it appears there was a disconnect in the communication. To me, it's unacceptable. As a Canadian, I expect more, and I think other Canadians expect that other federal law enforcement, intelligence, and border security agencies can work seamlessly, share information seamlessly, and if there are administrative or legal hurdles, then that's something Parliament needs to look at, he said. So a spokesperson for Goodell said would only say a combination of several unique errors led to the oversight for a single permanent residency application. So they're just like, oh, there's a bunch of very unique errors that led to this single one thing that happened. It's like, bullshit. This happened a lot. Did you give AJ a what? Oh, the bourgeois mindset. Well, there's Anarchar again. The working class. I am the working class. It's funny how socialists think that like bosses don't work. That's the one thing. It's like they think that like a lot of people employing you don't don't do anything. Like, no, they're working a lot harder than you. They are the working class as well. Like, but let's see here. What was this? Those mistakes were unacceptable. What is this? Related to security, we can say that government in Canada monitors all potential threats, has robust measures to place to address them. But I forget what they talk about. Some Orwellian fixes for this. I forget. Absurd identity potential security. Andrew Scheer, NDP. I don't know, but what was this? Oh yeah. See, okay. The NDP's public safety critic Matthew Dubé said he raised the issue of outside oversight from the CBS past. Yeah, so they want some outside oversight, but these organizations are constantly rejecting that idea. Whereas, what's so bad about getting outside oversight? No, because they don't want to be held accountable for their actions, and they're obviously wasting money, wasting our time, letting in criminals into Canada and not telling us about it. Now this guy has health care, social insurance. He can work, live anywhere in Canada he wants. So, it's pretty ridiculous. Review board agency get a pending bill, an issue related to national security. That's with the department. But yeah, that's just another bullshit bullshit thing. Liberals, you know, they're not protecting us. They're letting the border, they're leaving the border open completely wide, and they're letting in criminals, right? But what are you gonna do? So let's check out the chat here. Of course, AJ is that dude with Canadian info. Oh, thanks, man. Dinner is in the oven. Oh, thank you, Linda. Canada Cannabis News. Yeah, I did. I smoked a big bong rip before I did this. Honestly, like 5 minutes before I started this. And I don't have my water, and my lips are dry, and I'm like, I gotta like, what the fuck is, I don't know why they're dry right now. Government is the reason why things are so expensive nowadays. We haven't had a free market since the Bank of Canada was created. Yeah. The one I really wish you can get that through Anarcor's head, because he doesn't seem to understand that. He thinks that, like, you know, we're in like, I don't know, probably like late stage capitalism or something. Yeah, I know. I forgot my mason jar. I don't know where it is. I left it somewhere. It's, you know, I know I should have brought it back for you guys. I know you guys like that. Yeah, we sold off all of our gold. Yeah, so, you know, they fucked us over, essentially. But that is proof if true your system kind of works. Most socialists are clueless. We haven't had real capitalists since the 30s. Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, you know, people don't think that, like, the telecom industry in Canada is like a free market and stuff, right? It's like, no, they don't allow competition to come in, so they can charge us whatever the fuck they want. That's why it's bullshit that Bell Media refused Faith Goldie's ads, because they have an essential monopoly on the industry in Toronto and whatnot. So then, you know, you got these fucking piece of shit socialists. They're like, well, it's the free market. Oh, they can refuse a service from anyone they want. It's like, yeah, I would be fine with that too if we had an actual free fucking market. But that's not the case in a lot of scenarios where some people have a virtual fucking monopoly on an industry that is often facilitated by the government. You know, like if the government says, oh, no other industries can come in, and then Bell is the one and only person in the ballpark, then yeah, they're gonna be able to fuck us over. But if you open the doors, allow other people in, then it's gonna be better for all of us. We're gonna have competition. But, you know, they think competition is a bad thing, right? You know, this type of competition that we have is structured competition through the government. So it's not real competition oftentimes. You know, there's lots of loopholes that people have to jump through to even be able to participate in a lot of businesses. Like, look at the cab industry. It costs so much to even get in it. It's pretty much just nepotism, most of it. Why the fuck are they all brown and like Pakistani? It's because they're just the best cab drivers or something. It's like, no, they pass these things on to each other or whatnot, and to their family members. Like, oh, I'll give you my cab license, or you can drive it, and or whatever. And it's like all these regulations to get into the industry. And then you see, they're like, remember the cab companies were all protesting when Uber was potentially coming into the country. And then you see all these, like, Uber's horrible. They just don't want competition, because then these cab drivers can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, there was a cab driver the other day, or a month or two ago, in Winnipeg, that picked up a girl and dropped her off outside in -30 fucking temperatures after she got out from the club, like 1 or 2 in the morning. And he dropped her off -30, and luckily some random guys that were probably you know, white supremacist males, chauvinist, toxic masculine pigs, picked her up and drove her home, right? But the cab company, like, he was driving her, he's like, no, I don't feel like taking you all the way anymore. It's too far. And he just stopped. Just get out of my cab, right? And it's like there's so many instances of this, and people just can't really do anything because there's not a lot of competition. People have no other choice. Like my mom was driving for this native thing where you drive native women around for free in this cab because they were getting, assaulted by cab drivers and shit a lot. But, they were doing that to other people, but they probably did it to some native women too. Or maybe that was probably just them complaining and then they got it for free or something. Or it's like you pay them, but you pay them like kind of whatever you have. So it's kind of bullshit. Hey, Lanciopia, how's it going? Yep. There's Anarchor. Hey, Jay. Maybe this will help. Yeah, a little bit of coffee. Yeah, and look at the weed. Look at legalization of weed as well. There's a lot of people that are not allowed to compete. They're like, oh, this province you can grow, this other province you can't grow. You're only allowed to, only these people can sell, not these people. So it's like, that's going to be a whole nother regulated type market. And it's supposed to be the free market. And you're like, okay, whatever, man. It's like you don't allow all these other people to compete. And you have the government or the police go in and busting all these other grow ops that are going on. And the government doesn't even have the supply to provide everybody with the fucking weed to begin with. But they're going to go and punish you. And now they instituted these Orwellian or fucking authoritarian laws where now they can knock on your door 2 hours after you've been drinking and ask you for a goddamn breathalyzer test. Like, that is insane. And it's like, well, what the fuck is this? This is the government. And, people think, oh, well, the National Socialism will help us and we'll just make sure that the government works for the people. It's like this, it's very naive thinking, right? It's like you have to be really, I don't know, young or, deluded to think that you can get a government to work for you. And it's like maybe you can get one temporarily, but then over time, somebody else is going to take that place and is going to, turn these laws that you used against other people on you, or they're not actually going to help the people that you think need helping. People have different ideas. They think differently. You may think, oh, we need to give the money here and here and here. Well, somebody else may think differently than you, even though you're both National Socialist or something, right? So there's going to be conflict always over how that large sum of money is going to be spent. And there's always going to be the corrupt people going to the top to try to gain access to that power, to that money, to distribute it and feel powerful. Power corrupts ultimately. That's something that we should all essentially know by now, right? It's like not, but then again, it's like you shouldn't always assume somebody who's very rich and has some power is necessarily corrupt. But for most people, it will corrupt them. Maybe not all, but most people it will, because most of us are not like what's his name, that king in Rome, Marcus Aurelius, right? There's like a philosopher king and like a couple of other kings like this. Most of the people throughout history have abused the power that they've had. They didn't restrain themselves. Yeah, well, we need to help the people kind of Canada first, clearly. Yeah, it's the people kind. The Libs had to ram weed legalization through. They needed the victory, and they needed an excuse to rob more of our freedoms via roadside DNA test on demand. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's very political. They waited till like right before essentially the election period to legalize it. And you're like, okay, but you know, it might even backfire because a lot of the laws that came out after it, and how, you know, the supply, you go to the store and you're like, this isn't that great. You're like, I'm just going to go buy it from my regular dealer. I'm going to get it for cheaper, and I'm going to get more, and it'll be like better or just as good of quality. So, you know, why bother? But now they just made it like smoking it legally even harsher of a crime, where it's like, just go back to the way it was. I almost prefer it the way it was. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know how you fuck up legalizing weed, but you do when you're greedy and the government wants their cut. You know, that they're gonna fuck it all up. Yeah, I almost prefer it the way it was because it's just ridiculous. And now a bunch of my dealers stopped dealing. They're like, yeah, I'm just gonna quit dealing now. So I'm gonna find new people to go to, and you're like, well, what the fuck? But you know, and then my ID expired, so I have to get a new ID. And then you go in to the thing, and then there's some fucker waiting for you at the front door. Do you have an ID? And then I show them, and it's like, I'm like, man, I'm like pretty much like 30, and they're like, well, it's expired, man. We can't let you in. Sorry. I'm like, fuck you. Like, this is my proof of age. I'm proving to you that that's all you need it for. I'm above the age required. But see, the government, once again, they can get in trouble if they allow me in. Like, you know, I understand, because if you don't, you know, you have to go pay the government more money to get a new ID. So you got to give them $20 again because it expired. But it's like, you know, it's like, fuck off. It should be good as proof of age at the very least. But, you know, you'll get those fuckers and be like, oh, sorry, you can't come in. And you're like, go to hell. You know, go to hell. I'm like, fine, I'm just gonna go buy it off of the black market. So you forced me to commit a crime. You know, you forced me to commit a crime. It's your fault. I blame you for it. So I was like what do you want from me, right? And that whole weed thing online, that's going to get cracked down right away, because you can order it online, but they're definitely going to crack down on that, because they don't pay the same taxes that other people pay, and businesses are definitely going to get mad about that. They're going to be like, oh, this is taking into our cut. You know, shut this down. You can be sure the government is most likely going to go and is going to shut that down, because it's too convenient to have your weed shipped to you, and they're making too much money because they don't have to pay the same taxes that other people are doing it. It's like, that's unfair, blah, 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 right? But, you know, just open up the market, let more people fucking do it. But, you know, they're not going to do that. And the prices are probably just going to keep raising, like the price of booze and cigarettes keep going up because it's a non-essential, and they can justify, oh, well, you don't need it for your health, so we can raise it, and we can keep raising you the taxes on it because it's bad for your health, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, it's like, and that's why there's a black market with cigarettes too, because the government charges like a ridiculous amount. You know, I know so many people who go to like America to buy their fucking smokes. Like that's how fucking drastic people are willing to go to get cheaper smokes. They know people that go to the States every month or so, and they're like, get me like 10 cartons of fucking smokes. And then they buy the fucking smokes from those people. So we're just giving our money to the American economy because they charge us so much fucking money for cigarettes and booze and whatnot in Canada. And then they have, you know, the restriction over the border. So they're like, oh, you can't bring a certain amount. So that's also, once again, for certain businesses, so then they can, you know, and then they lobby for the government to do this. They lobby. And how are lobbyists part of a free fucking market? They aren't. You know, it's like, oh, you know, look at the food guide that came out, and it's so political. All these people are like, oh, nobody's gonna drink juice anymore, and nobody's gonna do this, nobody's gonna do that. This is gonna affect our profits. You know, it's clearly all fucking just lobbyist and political and all this crap. And you're like, what are we really supposed to eat? They're not telling us. It's like it's businesses and other groups that are telling us what we should be fucking eating, so we don't even fucking know. You know, it's like, oh, you need to eat all this other shit. So buy this, buy this, buy this, buy that. You're like, you know, just don't believe anything the government tells you. That's my motto. Pretty much whatever they tell me, I just question it and think the opposite, or assume they're lying or twisting the truth in some way. that is the best way to go about it. You know, just always assume they're trying to you know, pull the rug out from under your feet, sell you something that is not really what it is on its surface. You know, they always name things like, oh, this bill of health and tranquility or something, and it's really just like extremely horrible for people, like poisons people, but you know, they name it something really nice and everybody just buys it and something. But yeah, it's funny. There's also what, like, this is what I came across. This white comedian. This is funny. White comedian rejected for show in Montreal after dreadlocks deemed cultural appropriation. So, you know, that's hilarious. I'll put this in the chat because it's just funny. And you got to read it yourself because it's just got the whole SJW language in it. And it's like, you know, cultural appropriation. But here, let me check out the chat. If anybody has any questions, put AJ Elicits in the chat and ask away. Yeah, you can sell. I don't know who sells weed online. Let's see here. Why Canada? Why? What's the difference between what the bread companies did and what the dairy cartel does? Right. You know, they all work together, the bread companies, to, you know, regulate the price or something. But, you know, they came out and they were charged exactly, and they had to pay, or they had to give, like, I don't know, some like free bread to a lot of people over like a certain period of time. I forget what it was, because they were all like working behind the scenes with each other to keep the price of bread up and stuff. But, you know, that's also has a bunch of regulations and stuff that keeps other smaller competitors from coming into the market to stop some of these larger companies from working together and, you know, setting the price for a product. So it's like, yeah, it's really no different than the dairy cartel. So it's like, if, you know, we just legalize, you know, like lobbying is just legalized bribery. That's all it is. It's legalized bribery. It's nothing less. I thought everyone originated from Africa. No, I came from Mars. That was pre 9/11. Oh, you're late. Yeah, you're late, Julie. Now it sucks to cross the border. The colluded artificially raise the price. So does the dairy and poultry industries. Why is one legal? Yeah, exactly, right? Why is one legal? Because one of them has better lobbyists, I guess. The dairy cartel has better lobbyists. That's pretty much, I think, like pretty much the only reason why it's legal for them and not legal for the dairy cartel. But, you know, and people will scoff at it, but all these things add up. You know, all these things add up. The dairy cartel is just one aspect of how the government manipulates the market and how that just raises the price for everybody. Because, you know, how are we going to get cheaper prices when there's no competition allowed? How are we going to get actual good internet services or like good cell phone plans in Canada if we don't have competition? You know, we have ridiculous cell phone plans in Canada. People in America pay way less than us. Like the amount that we pay, we don't even have like unlimited data in a lot of circumstances. It's ridiculous. Wayne Jesus, insensitive. Never too late for an AJ party. Just keep shooting questions and he'll stick around to answer and talk. Yeah. Pretty much I will. Well, thank you, Julie. people are more caring when it comes to cow nipples. Right. That's true. Canada needs SpaceX internet. SpaceX internet. I've never heard of that. Is that from Elon Musk or something? Living on welfare payments. That's why marijuana is legalized. Yeah, that's a good point. And that kind of boosted the, what do you call it? The job numbers as well. The legalization of marijuana. Because if he didn't do that, the job numbers would be a lot worse. And even the job numbers themselves, it's only part-time jobs that have increased. And we've lost tons of full-time employment. And a lot of that is in Alberta. So he doesn't give a fuck, right? He doesn't give two shits about people in Alberta, people in places that don't vote for him. He's like, fuck you. You're not an immigrant. You're not a woman. You're not a leftist fucking liberal idiot. Screw you. We're going to screw you guys over as much as possible. And, you know, now there's like some thing from the UN, that came out that said, oh, we could reverse climate change right now if we just phase out fossil fuels completely, immediately. I saw that trending on Twitter or something. So it's like, oh, if we just phase out fossil fuels immediately right now, we could stop the 1.5 degree increase and going to 2%. And you're like, that would be insane. If we listen to these crazy people, all of our economies, I don't know what the fuck would happen. Like, you know, they would work like 10 times harder to destroy our industries and our energy sectors. Like it would be insane to listen to these so-called fucking climate scientists. You know, I don't believe them whatsoever. I deal with Freedom Mobile. Anybody else? No, I don't. I actually, I gotta get a new plan, get a new provider. So when I do go to get a new phone, I'll go definitely look to see if you know anybody good. Is Freedom Mobile any good? Because if it is, if anybody has like a good cell phone brand, I don't want to support Bell, you know, definitely not Bell. If you self-flagellate, you have automatic employment in Canada. The temperature will increase 1 degree in a country that sees the temperature 80 degrees every 6 months. And it's funny, a lot of people even admit that climate change would benefit Canada initially anyways, because it would open up like a bunch of trade routes. It would open up a bunch of shit for us. It would actually be good for us if the world warmed up a little bit. So, you know, bring on the fucking warming. I live in goddamn Winnipeg. It's cold as shit. I was working today. It was minus 35. I was working outside. And like I had my gloves off and I like, you know, I had my hands on, like you put your hands on metal, starts to like freeze and shit immediately. Like, man, I would love it if it warmed up like 10 degrees and the coldest my winters got was minus 25. I'd be like, this is fucking great. Like this is amazing. You know, that was with wind chill. So it was minus 25 and it was like minus 35 with wind chill or whatever. But you know, yeah, I would love it if it was a little bit warmer. Like fucking, you know, me other people and other places like, oh no, but like, no, fuck this, man. I would love it if I didn't have to freeze my ass off on the goddamn roof in the middle of January and February. Do you want to do that? No, I don't think you do. Try doing it. You will be praising for global warming and be like, please hurry. Like, I'm going to turn on a car and just crank the engine, just leave it running. And it's like in Canada or a lot of places are like, oh, you can't idle your car and heat it up. It's like, no, fuck you. We're just going to do that anyways, because you're not telling me you're going to let us just sit in a freezing car like minus 30 and just not even heat it up. It's like, no, fuck you, man. I'm not doing that. Spray outside free. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Linda. Keep up that global warming. I really appreciate that. But, you know, it's just all fear mongering. To me, that's what it is. It's fear mongering. It's trying to get people to be scared, be like, oh, we're the last generation that can do something about this. If we don't do something about this now, we're all going to die. Like, that is the rhetoric they're pretty much spewing at us. And it's like, no wonder people are more anxious now and are more worried and all the, and oh my God, Trump is the president. He's a white supremacist and he's going to enslave all the black people in America. And he's going to kill all the people. He's going to kick out all the Muslims and minorities. It's like, you know, he's done quite a bit for people as a whole in America so far. You know, he's pulling out of Syria. He's not going to be sacrificing lives. He did a prison reform bill that, you know, it's gonna it's being applied retroactively to people that committed like certain you know, drug charges. So that means that these people, their charges are going to be wiped and they can like essentially leave prison, which is like good. And if Obama did that, if he did the prison reform bill that Trump just did, they would be like, we need to give him another Nobel Peace Prize. Like, oh my God, the first one, you know, we gave it to him and he didn't really deserve it, but we need to give him another one for this. But, you know, for what he's doing for the economy, there was like Paul Krugman, this leftist economist, and all the other ones, Bloomberg and whatnot. They're like, oh, he's going to crash the economy. And, you know, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's never going to reach 3% GDP growth. And as we see, they've all been wrong. And same with like Ben Shapiro. That's why I don't even like Ben Shapiro, because it's like, you know, he says good things sometimes, but then generally he's just wrong about everything. He's wrong about all of his predictions. He's wrong about Trump. He's wrong about all this other shit. You know, he's a neocon generally. You know, it's just bullshit. You know, recently he came out and attacked Steve King for a comment that he made. He's like, I don't know what people have to do with why people get so offended by words like white supremacy, Western civilization, and like, I don't know, white pride or something, right? And obviously this was taken out of context, and we don't know, we haven't heard the actual discussion because they didn't release it. We just know like this certain phrase he used. But now the Republicans are all like, oh, they took away all of his responsibilities. And Ben Shapiro wrote this piece about him a long time ago defending him, but then updated it and redacted and be like, well, because of recent events, I think that he actually is a white supremacist and a racist, this Steve King guy. And you're like, what? Like, fuck Ben Shapiro. I'm like, you're such a fucking loser, goddamn fucking cuck. Like, you always back down. And it's like, well, we don't even know the full context of what he said. And even what he did say, I don't know why people get offended by words like white supremacy, Western civilization. What is wrong with that? Why do people get offended with these words? Can I just not use these words? And when you do hear them, people lose their shit. You know, but once again, it was taken out of context. But then you have all these Republicans bending the knee to liberals, ranting, and Ben Shapiro rewriting stories and whatnot. But, you know, there's just tons of these types of conservatives. And, you know, I just don't really like them in general. What is your prediction for 2030? Do you think the UN will succeed in their agenda? If so, how so? And what do you suppose Canada will look like in 11 years? Which UN's agenda? Like the one with the Paris Climate Accord by reducing, or the like the UN? I'm not exactly sure which one off the top of my head. If you could elaborate on that one a little bit. If climate change is so false, why the Great Barrier Reef dying and shit? I never said climate change was false, and the barrier reef and stuff dying. I don't know. Could that be because of a lot of pollution that people are putting into the ocean? Like, pollution and climate change are two different things, right? Like, I think everybody is against throwing oil and gasoline into the water and into oceans, right? And throwing plastic and littering and stuff. Like, we're all against these things. And I'm sure, like, yeah, throwing plastic in the ocean, little particles, isn't good, but climate change and whatnot, and the effects that it is going to have, we don't really know per se. And the climate does change by itself naturally as well. And it's just a lot of the predictions that they're making seem to me to be like fear-mongering predictions to try to get people to give away more of their rights, more of their money. You know, you gotta even if you believe 100% in climate change, you still got to look at the rhetoric of the government and what they're proposing often to fix this problem, right? You know, like the carbon tax that they're trying to put on us isn't going to do a lick of a difference, because the UN, like I said, just today came out, The Guardian, and it was trending on Twitter, said if we cease all production of oil right now, that means you stop driving cars. That means everybody stop driving. We all stop driving cars and using oil right now. Then we can prevent the world from reaching the 1.5 increase to 2%. But that means we would all right now have to stop. And that's never going to happen. So they need, if it's true, they need to think of something else, because nobody is going to stop and just cease using oil within the next year. And that's what they're saying. Like, if we just stop right now, we could reverse it. But if we don't stop, and they have percentages. They're like, if we stop right now, it will be 66% chance that we can reverse the increase to 2%. But they're like, if we wait 10 years, it will only be a 33% chance that we can reverse it. So like, do they really know? You know, I don't really trust a lot of these people, to be honest. But I listen to Liberty. Let me see. I know I was asking Agenda 21 as a whole video. Canadian depopulation, sustainable development, etc. One world government. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember. I think I read up a little bit about that. How they want essentially, to have a one world government, and you know, yeah, that's, to me, I don't think that's going to ever reach any type of, you know, legitimacy. You know, I look at the EU as kind of like a test for globalism on a large scale, and if it's breaking apart in the EU right now, I don't see how it's going to work on a global scale where people are even more different from each other than the Europeans are different from each other, right? You know, it's going to be tough to get people to just buy that bullshit. I don't think they're going to achieve their agenda of creating a one world government. You know, I think people value their sovereignty a little bit too much. And, well, still a larger percentage of people, maybe a lot of people have convinced not to, but still a large people, I think, still value their sovereignty more. Just like the UK, enough people in the UK are like, no, we need to go. You know, we need to leave. Let's see here. Climate change, if it's real or not, why do we have to impose the government on it? Right now, there's companies who are working on technology to filter carbon from the atmosphere. Right, you know, and we've just been like, we give subsidies to this company, then another company, then now we don't, now we do. And it's like, you know, if they just got out of the energy industry altogether, then we would have developed something different by now. You know, you have people like, oh, they should take control of the energy industry. But how do you know that's a good idea? You know, how do you know that using that energy that they're taking control of is a sustainable energy source to begin with? And, you know, the people that are funding it are going to have an interest of continuing to fund it, of continuing to give these jobs to people. You know, everybody in the organization is going to have an interest of keeping it going, keeping the government money coming in. But, you know, on the free market, then it would be whoever produces the cheapest fuel source is going to get the most amount of money. So if you can do that on coal or gasoline without subsidies, then people will buy that. But if you can do that on green energy and wind and solar, then people are going to buy that. So there's no need for the subsidies, because even within different technologies, like if it's a green technology or coal or oil, there's different producers that produce different qualities of a product. So you don't know if this green producer, like, okay, we'll fund green energy. Well, how do you know this guy is going to really produce anything worthwhile that people are going to use? You know, you could just be wasting millions of fucking dollars. Just allow the free market to do that. Allow people buying and selling amongst each other. Over time, the better product will win out. Let's see here. Yeah, you know, the UN makes so many fucking predictions as well. And it's like, you know, the government makes so many predictions. You know, they've been predicting our population being replaced for a long time, but they haven't done like anything about it whatsoever. You know, like, well, they were just looking at trends. That wasn't really prediction. That was more just looking at the trends. But, you know, they've known this since the 90s. I was reading something from the UN. It was like population replacement thing. And they've known that from the 90s, yet they haven't done anything about it. They don't bother doing anything about it. They're just like, well, we got to bring in immigrants to replace these people. We need to pay pensions. Whereas now Trudeau increased pension payments, right? So now we're actually getting more taxed. If you look at your paycheck, you're probably getting less than you were getting before, because now Trudeau is helping us all because he's increasing pensions for people. But by increasing pensions, you're just taking away from private savings. So for every increase in pension that the government does, regular people lose out on private savings that they can use and manipulate and use to their own benefit, and better than the government pension that you can't fucking take out until you're fucking 65. Whereas, you know, you can have all these other pensions or all these private ones where you could be making way more interest, way more money. You could take it out, do something with it, you know, invest it somewhere else. You know what I mean? You can make a lot more money for yourself for your retirement than opposed to what the government is doing right now. And who's to say that they're still going to have that money for you in the future? With the way that Trudeau is spending and the government is spending, they're not going to have money left. They're going to be forced to take from the pensions to spend on you know, other social programs that they're going to need in here and now. So we're just giving our money away to these people, and they're eventually going to steal it from us to use it. And they're going to be like, oops, sorry, we told you that we were going to have a pension for you, but sorry, we kind of spent it, and now we're broke. Oopsie daisy. You know, so like, they're going to fuck us with this shit. Okay, we will never have a free market unless we go back to the gold standard and the Bank of Canada. That is the root of big government. You control the money, you control the people. Yeah, exactly, right? You know, you control the money, you control the people. And, you know, with inflation, with the way, you know, they print money, it's ridiculous. They should get rid of mass immigration, pay incentives to Canadians to make babies. Well, that sounds like a good idea, but which Canadians are they going to pay to have babies, right? We already do pay Canadians incentives to have babies, but except the only people taking advantage of those incentives are the people you don't want having babies, right? The welfare is technically incentive for a lot of people to have babies. So the thing is, we got to realize that, like, white people generally through history, as we've seen, do better with less government than other groups. It seems like, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it seems like. Okay, so instead of just giving money to people, or even like white people, to have more babies, it would be better just to take away the money from everybody. So then that way you can avoid the whole, well, you're picking one group over another, right? Which would be bullshit also, right? Whereas you just say, okay, nobody gets it. And then just by virtue, the white people being white or whatever, not just being white, but just their history and whatnot, they're going to need less government assistance, and they're going to have more of that money to themselves to have more children. And it's going to be the smarter white people having kids, not the dumb fucking white trash idiots that you want having children, to have a bunch of inbred fucking kids and are living off welfare and shit. You don't want those people breeding, right? You don't want a bunch of stupid white people breeding either. That's not going to be good for society. So the only way to ensure smarter white people are breeding, and smarter black people and Asian people of all different races, because we don't want an influx of stupid people of any group. But in order to get the smartest people having the most children and the stupidest people having the least amount of children, is you have a free market system, because then it's more off of merit and less off of socialism, right? Less off of redistribution of wealth. And yes, don't worry, we're not going to let all the poor people starve and die, and stupid people starve and die. Yet there's going to be charity. People are going to have families. They're going to help take care of these people. And yeah, some people are not going to be able to have kids because they're going to be fucking really poor and shit or whatever. Or, nobody's going to take care of those kids afterwards. So it's like, maybe their family will, or a charity or something. But, right now we have too many incentives for people to do bad things, to have 6 kids out of wedlock, with no incentive of having a man and staying with him and being together and providing for a family. They can just live off of the state. And then what do you get from that? You get a bunch of, that Gillette commercial. They're like, oh, these men are so terrible, and they're sexist, and they beat people and all this crap. It's like, but the majority of people, they're raised by like single mothers right now. And a lot of men are raised by single mothers and are raised by women in education systems. They're all women. So if there was actually more men around, then, the problem isn't we need to fix men. The problem is we need more men. We need more men in these kids' lives, as opposed to more women in these kids' lives, because they don't know how to raise their fucking kids. And we're incentivizing single mothers to raise a bunch of dysfunctional fucking kids. Either they're whores and they're sluts, and they're opening their legs and having a bunch of kids, right, doing stupid shit, or they're dudes who are criminals, and they're beating people, stealing from people, doing those. And then but I know a guy who has 2 parents, and he's a killer, and he's a drug dealer, and he's this, and she's a hooker, and fuck off, right? We all know there's exceptions and all this crap, but generally, a single parent, a single mother especially, no offense, it is not going to be able to raise a kid effectively, raise a boy effectively, or even a girl effectively, because those girls, they need to see a male role model and how that male role model treats a woman, because then they'll know, oh, that's how a man treats a woman. Because a lot of these these girls from single mom households, they don't know what they should be treated like. They think maybe being treated like shit from some of these guys is okay. That's how it is. That's how my mom was treated. That's how I should be treated, or whatnot, right? But if they actually have a good role model to be like, wow, that my dad was good to my mom and all that, that's what they're going to want too. And then they're going to go and they're going to try to pick a guy that also has those qualities, because they saw that growing up. And this is how we make society better. It's not more government, more redistribution of wealth, and things that have a good idea behind them, like giving money to certain people to have more kids. We always got to remember those are going to be used against us. It's either going to fund people we don't want having kids, or generally, I think we don't need the government for practically almost anything. And the only times I think we should use it is kind of like, yes, in the society right now, occasionally we have to use the state to undo some things the state does in the meantime. Or in the case of like Faith Goldie with Bell Media, because Bell Media has a monopoly in pretty much Toronto and stuff, and the government doesn't allow competition, it's almost like the only alternative is either force the government to force these people to allow her to speak, or open up the fucking competition, which we know a lot of them just are extremely reluctant to do. You know, we're so brainwashed to anytime people hear private, a private company, oh my God, Doug Ford wants to privatize healthcare. Oh, he's secretly trying to privatize healthcare. Oh my God, everybody run for the hills. It's private. It's going to affect wait times. I saw that headline. I was like, oh, Doug Ford privatizing healthcare is going to affect wait times and this. It's like, yeah, it's going to lower wait times, you fucking retards. Building a bunch of new hospitals, it's going to lower the wait times. Well, but you're going to allow rich people to go in there and pay for healthcare above these poor people? Yes, they have the money. You don't. They can pay for it. You can't. They can still use the fucking public service that is there already, but they're so opposed to private healthcare, to private anything. They're like, no, we don't even want a dual system where there's a private and a public. All has to be public, all public. And you know, there's like Rand Paul coming to Canada for hernia surgery, and all these leftists, oh, he's coming to Canada to get hernia surgery. Oh, I guess he loves public socialism, social health care, but he was going to a facility in Ontario that is a private facility, and it specializes in hernias that he got. And, you know, like this shady reporters, even the way that they were talking about, oh, Rand Paul is going to get surgery for a scuffle he had with his neighbor over a disagreement. And it's like, really? It's like, that's how you fucking frame it. If it was anybody else, it was like, no, Rand Paul was attacked by his crazy neighbor over his politics. But, you know, they're trying to smear him. See, he's a libertarian and he loves small government and all this stuff, but he's going to Canada. But it's like, you know, these people, like, they're such shady fucking characters, and they never tell the whole story. Just like AOC, that Cortez dumb bitch. She's like, oh, the 70% tax rate people had in the 50s and 60s, and oh, we were doing great. That was the peak of our economy, and we were doing amazing. And you're like, okay, effectively, those people paid something like 15 to 20% tax rate. A lot of those people, even less, some of them, and some of them paid maybe close to what we are paying right now. So they weren't paying 70% or anything like that. You know, they're paying equivalent or even less taxes than they were paying now in the 1950s. Because they, you know, we got to remember, like, even nowadays, a lot of companies know how to not pay taxes. They know they know what lawyers to hire, what laws they can go around. You know, they hire a tax lawyer to go in and be like, oh, we'll just claim this here, move your assets here, move it here, move this here, here, and virtually you pay no tax, right? All legal, all legally done. But, you know, see, the smaller competitors can't afford to pay these people, afford to pay armies of lawyers to figure out how to pay no taxes, or how to lobby the government to you know, pass laws in their favor. So who ultimately wins? Always these bigger companies. Then we have monopolies that we're like, oh, you know, we need to regulate it and all this stuff. It's like, man, if we just left it open to begin with, we wouldn't have this fucking problem. But now we have this problem. Now you have a bunch of people, conservatives are like, okay, we need to regulate the internet. But guess what? A lot of leftists want to regulate the internet too, but they want to regulate it like just opposite from you and make it like a lot worse. They, like, I was reading this one thing, and they essentially want to do like Article 13 here in Canada and in America to protect, it really comes down to copyright, and it comes down to movies and the entertainment industry that are losing billions on people watching like shit online, streaming stuff online, and they're like, they want their cut. They're mad. They're losing out on a lot of fucking money. So, if we regulate the internet to try to like allow right wingers to speak or something, you can be sure it's probably going to work against us, that the people who are going to regulate it are going to be like a bunch of liberals and leftists, and are going to do it in favor of like corporations, but let me check the chat here. Hey, Nibush. How's it going? Good for you. How about this idea of giving drug addicts free drugs because they might buy botched street drugs? What the fuck? Is that something that people are proposing, to give drug addicts free drugs? Hey, well, they're already putting them up in like random areas and letting people inject themselves and making areas worse. So why wouldn't they give free drugs to people? Like, why wouldn't they do that? That just sounds like something liberal or NDP person would do. I have illegal TV, 1,000 channels for $10 a month, free market alternative to high cable costs, right? Right. And I watch a lot of YouTube, honestly. And then I watch some like this anime plus, or this anime, and you watch tons of free shit there. And like, I don't even watch TV, cable whatsoever. In the act of changing my name for safety's sake. You're in the act of changing your name? Oh, there's Derek calling me a racist. Or I mean a wacist. That's Karen Wang. Karen Wang is a wacist, and she talked bad about Jagmeet Singh and talked about his Indian heritage. And bad. She needs to step down and resign. But honestly, I don't even want her to resign. Like, I don't want her to resign. I think she should be allowed to stay. And I want to see how much support she still gets, among the community, and how popular she really is. Because, if she were to stay and all those people voted for her, could I then say, oh, all those people are racist for voting for Karen Wang? But they're like, oh, no, just step down. But really, I would have much preferred she stayed in place, and I wanted to see how much support she would get, even if she won. I don't care. It's like, what is the choice between there? Jagmeet Singh and her, so a leftist and another leftist? Who the fuck cares who wins in that circumstance? You need to step down. It's like, you guys fucking care anyways. Don't act like you leftists care about fucking racism. Makes no sense. I'm not Jewish. Don't call me Jewish. I know a lot of people think I'm Jewish, but that's not the fucking case, man. You're so funny when I answer people in the chat. Oh, thank you, Mama Bear. Oh, I appreciate it. Liberals race baiting. Oh, on the weekend of 1-3. What the hell does that mean? Is Mariam Monsief still in Canada? She lied about her country of origin. Yeah. Why wasn't she deported? Exactly. Why wasn't she just got like, there's that whole cabinet shuffle with Trudeau. I remember he's had 2 cabinet shuffles already. There's one with Doug Ford. And it was like, oh my God, this is a sign of how crazy it is and how just out of whack his administration is. Doug Ford, oh, he's crazy. And then Trudeau has all these cabinet shuffles that are like, oh, look at this new minister of this. Oh, look at this. Look how great this is. And Samus O'Harris or Reagan is now the minister of this or something. But yeah, no, I hate all those fucking people. Yeah, you are a Jew. You fucking Jew. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Don't ban me. Don't ban me. That's probably on like the YouTube algorithm. Oh yeah, I saw this story about Google, and they were talking about all these keywords that they had that they were like banning. And I think David Hogg is a crisis actor. David Hogg is this. David Hogg is that. All those were up for like manual inspection. You know, if you had this in your title or your channel tags, and that's why my video got a fucking community guidelines strike. You know, I didn't say anything about David Hogg or whatnot, conspiracy, but they just assumed, I guess I was, and just gave me a community guidelines strike. But, you know, Google lied under oath about manipulating the algorithm to favor liberal candidates and whatnot, which they've done, you know, a shitload, and there's tons of evidence of it. So, you know, they're lying, but they're not going to be held accountable anyways. You know, they're going to get off scot-free. That's cool. And this one time at band camp, treasonous sedition, Trudeau loves immigrants. Oh, okay. See, I thought that was just a typo before because I just write immigrants, but immigrants and government, so wrong. Doesn't hate me for being a kike, but he does think my family is righteous and killed for being Jews in camps. And wrapped it up by stating my matey family should be in camps. Yeah, you know, I agree. They banned the word Jew in one of Now More News channel, No More New channel. When he played the video, the word Jew disappeared twice. They edited his video. Yeah, you can't even say Jew. It's ridiculous. Like, you Jew, what are you, an anti-Semite? You're like, what? What the hell? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you can't even say the word Jew. And people are like, oh, whoa, buddy. Relax. Apps are crap. IPTV is much better and much more reliable. It's worth it. And when I was always getting buffering before. IPTV. I'm going to copy and paste that and look at it. IPTV. Internet Protocol Television. No, I call them immigrants because they're always give me this, give me that. I got some good ones. Oh, thank you. You'll hook me up? Yeah, I was just looking at that. I was like, yeah. I don't know. I don't watch much TV or anything like that. Like, there's just so much content to watch on YouTube, and there's some other things I do watch. But I'm looking forward to the new Vikings series, if you guys haven't seen that. Christ has always been blasphemous. Yeah, you know, Nebuchadnezzar's people killed Jesus. That's the truth. Is that anti-Semitic? The Jews killed Jesus. Is that anti-Semitic to say that? Because apparently it is. And if you say like a bunch of other shit that's true, it's also anti-Semitic according to, like, I don't know, some Jewish groups or something. And you're like, what? Like, what? It's like, oh, the Jews run the media. And then they're like, yeah, that's technically true, but pointing to it is anti-Semitic because you know, whatever, you know. Italians killed Jesus. Yeah. Well, I don't know whether the Romans or the Jew. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't it King Herod who was Jewish or something? And you know, he kind of wanted him dead, and also tried to kill all the newborn babies because, you know, Jesus was supposed to be the king or something, and he had all the newborns killed, or tried to have all of them killed. Like, you know, he did have all of them killed, but, you know, they missed Jesus. But once again, I'm an atheist, so it doesn't really matter to me anyways. Either way. Oh, yeah, I saw that Ronnie Cameron was just outed as JDL. I saw that. I saw that video, and it's like he had like a JDL shirt or something. Hey Voltron, how's it going? But I don't even care, man. It's like that whole Ronnie, I'm watching his stuff, and it's so funny because everybody's just, if you guys know Ronnie, I'm pretty sure most of you guys know who he is, right? And you see, you know, he's more alt-right. He's like a white nationalist, but he has a black girlfriend. And it's funny because they're like, you're a fucking traitor or whatever. You're not. And it's like, you know, I kind of agree. I'm like, you know, if you're going to call yourself a white nationalist, you probably shouldn't have a black girlfriend, right? Like, you know, my girlfriend's black. I don't care. I'm not a white nationalist. I'm not trying to do what he does. So for him, it's kind of like weird. But now they're all like, you know, yeah, he's outed as a JDL or something. And like, I don't know what his past is. I don't really fucking care. You know, I'm like, it's so stupid for the alt-right to attack people or to be like, oh, you're this, you're that, who race mix or something, but who are also fighting to try to, like, I don't know, get a white ethno state. It's like, why would you kick away all of your allies? Like, you know, these people are trying to help you, and you're like, oh, but you have a black girlfriend. She's half black. Oh, you can't be a part of the club. You can't be a part of our club now. It's like, you guys are fucking so stupid. So stupid. You're like, just idiots. Boyfriend. Yeah. All right. Have you seen the petition going around to stop the new Islamic Party in Ontario? We are supposed to have separation of church and state in Canada. No. Leave it. We don't even need to take it away. You know, like, I don't know. I think it's just good. It's a good thing to point at. I don't think they'll ever get power. You know what I mean? But like, in the meantime, I think it could be something beneficial. Let's see here. Yeah, I saw you there a few nights ago. It was my first time. Crazy chat. Yeah, you know, they're just attacking him for being a race, for his girlfriend being black or whatever. But you're like, why the fuck are you people going to attack somebody who's like trying to help you generally? It's like, well, what the fuck is wrong with you idiots? It's like, yeah, I was trying to poo. Fucking Derek, he's still here. Get out of here, you racist fucker. Nobody wants you here. Go back and feed your goddamn horses some carrots like a good racist would. Yeah. Exactly. Go freeze outside in the winter like you were before. You know, I was like, oh, he's going to freeze. Hopefully, I don't have to hear him call me a racist anymore. Every goddamn video I make, every video, it's like, racist. What part of farm do you reside, AJ? I'm in Winnipeg. And I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Unfortunately, the center of Winnipeg, the shithole of Winnipeg, essentially. Yeah, thumbs down. Thanks, dude. It's much appreciated. Portage in Maine. Yeah. Oh. He lives in a hipster area. Oh, okay. I live on in Saint Vital, in South Saint Vital, where, yeah, the hipster area full of black immigrants and croats. He lives in a hipster area full of black immigrants. Yeah, that increasingly it looks like that. You know, I'm like, some of the areas where your brother lives, Nibush, is you know, I'm like, holy crap, man. I'm like, there's so many black people around. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Oh, Croatians. Yeah, you know, there's lots of fucking immigrants. Lots of immigrants in Winnipeg. It seems like a huge influx, even though it's cold as shit. You would think that people wouldn't want to come here, but apparently they still do, unfortunately. But, you know, I don't want worse traffic. I don't want more crowded cities and stuff. Like, I don't know who wants that. But, you know, if you guys got a question, just shoot AJ Illicits in the chat there. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, Voltron. What podcasts or YouTubers do you watch? Anyone in particular that has influenced you? Great talking points. Not easy to just free flow like you do. Oh, thank you, Voltron, for saying that, man. I really appreciate the donation as well, man. Well, I think, honestly, Stéphane Molyneux probably had one of the biggest influences and impacts on me, and kind of like red pilling me to a lot of different things. You know, I started listening to him a long time ago, and, you know, he put things in a certain way to make you kind of like understand, you know, the problem with the state, with the government. And, you know, he seems to have a very, you know, he what I like about him, he's not like the alt-right, you know, it's more like, it's evidence-based or whatever, and they're like, oh, he doesn't call out the Jew or whatever, you know, like the stupid criticism from the alt-right. But, like, you know, he was talking about a lot of stuff before a lot of other people, talking about IQ, talking about all these differences, and kind of was able to put a lot of things into clear perspective for me, and kind of how things do work. And, you know, I really do like also Sticks, Hex, and Hammer. He also, you know, I liked, you know, his style and stuff, the way he did things, and kind of like, you know, he gave me some inspiration. Him and Stéphane also, because both of them kind of have similar styles where they just talk about things that, you know, are interesting to them, or, you know, they just kind of go on rants and stuff. But I kind of like listening to those types of rants. But also, you know, it was a huge progression. I made a video about this a while ago, talking about how I got to the right. But funnily enough, like, you know, it started with probably, I started watching YouTube a long time ago, and I became an atheist, right? And then I started watching, you know, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, all those other prominent atheist YouTubers, right? You know, and Atheism is Unstoppable. Not Atheism Unstoppable. I did watch him too. I still kind of watch him here and there. But what do you call it? The Amazing Atheist. I started watching him, and, you know, I didn't really have much of a political slant like then, too much a few years ago. You know, I knew about some stuff, but, you know, going on there, and then you know, that got me kind of introduced to watching Joe Rogan, and then from Joe Rogan I got introduced to other people. I think Stéphane Molyneux, and then I'd already seen him, I think, before, but then, you know, I got reintroduced to him through that, and then a couple other people, and then you know, just slow progression through that, right? Yeah, I haven't really watched many of her videos. Amazing Polly takes you right up to the gate that he keeps. I went to school. Let's see. Don't you guys know how racist the Chinese are? Yeah, they're extremely racist. But, you know, it's only white people can be racist. Yeah, I like Sticks too. You know, he's pretty good. There's been a few other people. Yeah, Peter Schiff is really good too. He's got a good. I like Peter Schiff as well. I got introduced to him through Stéphane Molyneux, actually. But yeah, like he's pretty good. He explained things pretty well. I live in a slum across the city river. Sticks without the inside track info. His analysis is great, but he's missing info, rejecting it. Yeah, AIU hates me. Why does AIU hate you now? Pronounce that as French as you can. Sorry, anyone from Gatineau. Gatineau. Love Amazing Polly. I remember watching the Amazing Yeah, put a banana. Yeah, I never watched him put a banana in his ass, but you know, I was kind of a fan of his a while ago. And you know, and then I got introduced, yeah, to Amazing Atheist, and then he kind of red pilled me to some shit, right? I mean, atheism is unstoppable when he started talking about black crime, and he's like, you know, they're talking about, oh, why are all these black people being shot more? He's like, because they commit more crime. And then he's like showing all these stats, and you know, you had the Amazing Atheist calling him a racist. He's like, well, that's racist. And he's like, well, how am I racist? I'm just talking about, you know, how they're doing a disproportionate amount of crime. He's like, well, it seems racist. And they had a huge going back and forth, and slowly Amazing Atheist eventually came around to it. And, you know, they all started criticizing Christianity at first, all these people, and they started moving over to Islam. And a lot of people were like, they wouldn't touch Islam, like the Amazing Atheist wouldn't, a bunch of these other cucks wouldn't touch Islam with like a 10-foot fucking pole, because they'd be like, oh, I don't want to be called an Islamophobe. I'm just going to attack the Christians because it's safe. I can safely attack Christians and nobody's going to call me a racist or a bigot. Nobody's going to try to blow me up and cut my head off like like an Islamist would. You know, I'm going to attack the Christians because they're safe, right? And it's like, you guys are just fucking weak. And, you know, I'm like, I'll attack any goddamn religion, you know, and I don't really attack them anymore as much, because I'm just kind of like, whatever. I think there are more important things to deal with at the moment in time. I don't think it's necessarily religion that is causing all the problems right now in the world. The problem seems to be socialism, seems to be leftism, seems to be government, seems to be the increase of the state, right? So I'm going to deal with that first and worry less about, you know, what people fucking believe in that, because I see on like Reddit, there's like, I joined the atheist one because I want to see, but they're all leftist, right? And it's just disgusting. And they're all like, oh, I'm a new atheist, and they're all new atheists. And it's like, how do I, you know, argue with my parents at Thanksgiving about the birth of Christ and how it's bullshit or something? And you're like, oh God, you're like, oh, these new atheists, you know, I'm like, they need to wake up. And, you know, right now, because they're under the assumption that the worst thing on the planet on Earth is religion. And I was under the same kind of belief. I would think that, like, I would be like, wow, everything horrible I can kind of like tie to religion in some way, right? But you know, there's good in the bad with it, and I think there's much worse things within the government, and the idea of, you know, them stealing your wealth and redistributing it, and how that's okay, and how all this other shit is okay within the government. I think like that is much worse. So hey Joe, how's it going? New atheists spawn SJWs. Well, you know, I'm not sure. I wouldn't say the new atheists spawn SJWs. Are you talking about Richard Dawkins and you know, Richard Dawkins and whatnot? Because those were called the new atheists before, right? So it's like, you know, even Richard Dawkins, he's a leftist, but he still like calls out Islam, and he always did. You know, he had no problem with that, right? You know, I think a lot of the SJWs does come from the educational system, you know, and it's like, and also parenting, how people have just completely, you know, encapsulated their kids within their homes. They don't let them go out. Like they're just, you know, they don't see anything anymore. They don't see, I guess, death or violence. They're so insulated from the world that they need safe spaces when they go to university and somebody argues with them and yells at them. And like I said, okay, this is a story I was going to talk about earlier. White comedian rejected for show in Montreal after dreadlocks deemed cultural appropriation. But it's so funny. The Coupe Les Récoltes, A bar and solidarity cooperative at the University de Quebec at Montreal confirmed on Facebook its decision to exclude Zach Poitras, I guess. A bar and solidarity cooperative. So that sounds very communist right there. A bar and solidarity cooperative. Okay. Montreal, an aspiring Montreal comedian, has been told he cannot take part in the show at the university bar because his dreadlocks are a form of cultural appropriation. The coup, a bar and solidarity cooperative at University of Quebec, confirmed on Facebook its decision to exclude Zach, who is white, because of his hairstyle. Poitras denied a spot at the Snowflake Comedy Club. That's so ironic. It's called the Snowflake Comedy Club, and another evening of engaged humor declined comment on the situation. So, yeah, of course, the Snowflake Comedy Club didn't allow him to perform because he's white and he had dreadlocks. The bar is operated by the UQAM branch of the Public Interest Research Group, which focuses on environmental and social issues. In its Facebook statement, the cooperative says its mission is to be a safe space free of relationships of oppression. It describes cultural appropriation as a form of violence. See, and that's what I really don't like. It describes cultural appropriation as a form of violence. Because what does that do? It makes people think that violence, like real violence, is justified in order to battle that violence from cultural appropriation. It's like, you know, that they do that on purpose. They want you, oh, speech is really violence. So what? Am I aggressing against you? Now you can defend yourself? Is that what you're fucking saying by saying speech is violence? I'm still trying to figure out the insult. Leftism is a non-theistic religion of intersectionality. I'm serious. Yeah. Well, it's a religion. Leftism is a religion, and a lot of atheists are religious in the state, in government propaganda. Like they're religious bigots to the state. A lot of these atheists, and they're like, you're not a real atheist in my estimation, right? I guess what I meant was new atheists were the original snowflakes, and it snowballed from there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that, because I guess maybe, you know, I'm obviously a little bit more tribal with my atheism, but like, you know, I don't know, the original snowflakes, because you could argue that, like, you know, a lot of the original snowflakes and stuff, like, were at one point the religious right that were mad, like, about you know, certain things, like, I don't know, gay marriage or whatnot, or a couple other things. They're just like, oh, you know, how could you, oh, you know, they attack this and they attack, you know, like they used to get kind of really offended back in the day, and it would be kind of like the left and liberals that would be like, oh, you know, all these conservatives are just, you know, they have no sense of humor. But now it's like shifted. Now it's like liberals, they're the fucking old hags, and be like, oh, you know, you're showing too much skin or something. Like, you know, I don't know, but like, it's tough for me to say what would be the original thing. I think this move to leftism and stuff has been going on for so fucking long, ever since like I think it was the one that said earlier, from like the 1930s, once the government and the Canadian bank started to be implemented, and we started to get like you know, like a fake money system. It's like, that's when everything just started going downhill, in my opinion. Like, you know, just as soon as the state started to grow, just the inevitable, you know, leftism will grow. Just the more the state grows, the more dependent people there are going to be, and they're obviously going to be, you know, prone to believing all this stupid nonsense that the universities are teaching them, because they grew up in pampered homes, and they don't know, you know, what it is to work, or have a job or, contribute. And they think like, a lot of these kids, these SJWs, I think they're SJWs because like, yeah, they go from childhood and from university and they don't get a job until they're like 25 or something. And if then, even if they do get one, maybe it's through a parent or something. So they don't really know what it's like to work on the free market. Once people have to like experience living on their own and like having to fend for themselves, having to buy their own food and groceries, and like looking at your budget and being like, okay, I gotta not spend this because I don't have any money. I gotta pay taxes. I gotta pay this, gotta pay this. But the socialism appeals to them. All this stuff appeals to them because they don't know any better. They don't know what it's like to actually live like a regular adult, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's just like, it just benefits government, these SJWs, because all they ever rant and scream for is more government. They're like, we need more government, bigger, and bigger, more government. We need the government to regulate these social media companies, to kick off right-wingers, and to prevent hate speech and fake news from coming on. There's on one aspect, right-wingers want to regulate it so that we're allowed to speak. And on the other aspect, they're like, we need to regulate it so they are completely wiped off of the platform, essentially. And it's like, it's like, fuck these people, but it's always going to be this way. It's always going to be this way, that the battle for power in this democratic fucking system. And the more diverse we get, the worse it's going to fucking get. Yeah, the evangelicals, right? Yeah, that's who it was. It was mostly, yeah, the crazy evangelicals in the 90s. Now the left acts like, yeah, the religious fundamentalists. They pretty much are. Their religion is the state, is the government. And if you disagree with the government's scientist on climate and the government scientist on this and that, then you're blaspheming. You shouldn't even be allowed to have a platform. You shouldn't even be allowed to speak, which a lot of people say that about climate deniers, which they frame it as, when it's like it's people, they're not even denying the climate. They're denying like, the change in climate. They're not saying it doesn't exist like these people are framing it as. But you're like, what the fuck? Fuck these people. They're the Puritans burning witches. Right. Yeah, that's what they are now. They are the Puritans. They're like, oh, you don't say diversity is our strength. You must be burned at the stake, and you must pay, and you must proselytize yourself, or you must like beg us for forgiveness, and maybe we'll forgive you. If your skin color is right, we can give you a pass. We can be like, oh, okay, well, you are black or you are Asian, like this Karen Wang girl. Oh, just step down. We're not going to call you a racist. We're not going to drag your name through the mud. But, if you're white, if you're that, then yeah, you're a racist bigot. If you said what that Karen Wang girl said, you're a piece of shit. They're all going to come out. They're all going to condemn you. But, like I said, that earlier quote from Aristotle, I thought was really fucking good when it came to diversity in Canada, right? It's like, for Aristotle, democracy is possible only within homogenous ethnic groups, while despots have always reigned over highly fragmented societies. A multi-ethnic society is thus necessarily anti-democratic, democratic, and chaotic, for it lacks philia, this profound flesh and blood fraternity of citizens. And tyrants and despots divide and rule. They want the city divided by ethnic rivalries. The indispensable condition for ensuring a people's sovereignty accordingly resides in its unity. Ethnic chaos prevents all philia from developing. So, even the Greeks knew that the more diverse we fucking got. And, the more diverse we get, the bigger the government is going to get, because the government, there's going to be this group that's going to say, oh, well, this group is attacking me. We need you to suppress them on behalf of us. And, oh, we're not being helped enough. Oh, you're helping this group more. You need to equalize this. And they're always going to look at outcomes and differences, and they're always going to look at educational outcomes, which are never going to be equal, and they're always going to be trying to equalize them. And already men are being like discriminated from entering into a lot of universities just because they're men or they're white. And now there's like a massive increase of women in universities. They overrepresent fucking men. And, it's just more diversity, more identity politics. That's why I think nobody should have the right to vote. I don't trust anybody, even white men. I don't want to give the vote just to white men or just to men who pay taxes, or people or women. Like that would be a better option, just allowing people who pay taxes to vote, regardless of race or gender, because you would be getting at least smarter people making decisions, people who have skin in the game. But they're crazy. Like, now they want to allow expats to be able to vote. Probably these foreign-born Chinese people who grew up, who came to Canada, lived here for 2 months, were born here, go back to China. Now that they can vote in their fucking elections. It's crazy. This is why democracy will never work, and it's not going to work in Canada. It will never work in Canada now. It's over, right? It's over, right? The only way it can work is when people feel, like Aristotle said, they have a tie with one another. They have a unity. They have blood ties with one another. Because without these blood ties, or at least some type of historical ties, or at least you guys you went through something together, it's going to be really hard for people to, want to help everybody equally. Everybody's always going to want to help their group, their people first, before other people. So, we always got to remember this. We got to take this into consideration. So people have been here for, that's why I say people, if you haven't been here for 2 or 3 generations, you shouldn't be able to vote. You shouldn't be able to run an office, right? I don't think that's unreasonable. I really don't think that's unreasonable, especially if the country you're leaving is a lot worse. That's the free market. See, the free market on a global scale. If we have better and more shit, and you're trying to leave your country, we can now bargain. We can be like, well, no, you don't get full citizenship until you're this or that. And if you don't like it, you can fuck off and go to Kuwait, or go to Saudi Arabia, or go to I don't know, Senegal or Ghana or Togo, or that place where those Canadians were just abducted. Go there and have fun. Or you can come here and not be able to vote and be able in office for 2 generations, whatever, 2 or 3. And, you have a good, safe life. It's pleasant, or you can go and live, or stay where you're living. That seems like a pretty good deal to me. And that ensures that at least the people here are at least more inclined to vote for our benefit as opposed to their benefit. But, that's not going to happen either. The whole system, I don't think it's going to last forever. Like, it's going to collapse. And, hopefully we can, from the ashes, make something that is at least more resembling some type of freer type of society. But when if a crash does happen, it's going to be blamed on capitalism. They're going to try to usher in more socialism, a bigger government. That's what always happens with the 2008 crash. They're like, oh, we just didn't stimulate the economy enough. We didn't help it enough. We didn't give enough money to these things. Even though these things fail all the time, they're like, well, if we would have gave them 10 billion as opposed to 5 billion, then it would work. But we just didn't give them enough money. That's always their fucking argument. It doesn't matter how much history proves them wrong. They're always going to come back and try to push for the same fucking shit. It doesn't matter how many examples that we have to show them. Be like, look, increasing the taxes on the rich makes it so you get less tax revenue. Like, that's what happened this year in Canada. But they just they just ignore it, and they're like, blah, 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 blah. We're just gonna raise it, and you know, that's all bogus, fake news, propaganda. We can just raise the taxes on the rich to 90%, and they'll fucking pay it, and they'll stay, and they'll have to pay it. And you're like, oh, you're delusional. They blame the banks for the crash, but the government guaranteed the loans to the banks. Yeah, exactly. Which made banks give loans to everyone, causing, yeah, exactly, right? You know, the government pretty much said that they would also cover the banks, you know, if it crashed. They're like, no, we'll bail you out. So even if you make all these bad loans to people and they make all these bad loans, it doesn't matter. We will bail you out. So, you know, they caused that problem. And then they try to fix it by stealing all of our money and giving it to corporations, right? And then they're like, then they tell us, oh, spend that money back into the economy and just keep spending it. And then what do? You give it all back to the fucking same corporations that they bailed out. So it just circulated. And since then, the separation between the 1% or the 0.1% and everybody else has only grown. They just got rich after that massive recession. And we could have just let them fail, right? Let these things fucking fail. But, you know, oh no, let's give them money. They'll give each other bonuses. They're still going to cut all these jobs and get rid of them. Doesn't matter. So, you know, what do? You know, they just steal from us, and we think they're helping us. But you know, I think that's about it, guys. I've been on for a little bit more than 2 hours. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Voltron, for the donation. I really appreciate that. Sorry about not having my what do you call it, mason jar to drink out of. You know, I needed that anyways. My fucking lips were dry. But thank you all for joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Joe. Thank you again. Thank you, Familiar Stranger. Thank you, Mama. Email me AJ for IPTV. Okay. Email me too at ajelicits.ca, and then I'll get back on your email. We'll talk about that. See you later, PPAP. Oh, thank you, Linda. Have a good night, Linda. 8675309. Yeah, I have to say that every single time I read your name. Yeah, man, we need to do a stream together as well. I just do these streams randomly. I tried doing a video before this, and I made like a 15-minute video, and I kind of fucked up my point at the end, and I was like, so I just deleted it, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do a stream. And why not? You know, fuck it. But thanks again, guys, for joining me, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. Take it easy. Peace. Oh, it's not going away.